Here's the MA35 filter with an inbuilt VCA module from Manhattan Analog. It's based on the original Korg MS-10 filter and VCA circuit, and it's got an inbuilt mixer, low pass and high pass modes, alongside volt per octave tracking. Here I'll go through the features of the MA35 VCF and VCA, which is based on the circuits in a Korg MS-10. To show the sound, I'm going to use an oscillating filter going into the unit to look at the basic 2-input mixer. So that's it, basic sound with that oscillating filter passing through, but turning up the input gain, there's extra clipping and saturation added, which is fairly obvious on the simple sine wave. So there's some nice saturation. I'll swap the input to a saw wave and look at the onboard VCA. The gain knob works as a VCA offset, but when a cable is plugged in it turns to a CV input attenuator. So here's the same self-oscillating filter that we used as a mixer input as an audio rate modulation of the VCA. Taking that out, we can also use the mod input as a secondary modulation point for the VCA. And we've got the offset for the VCA working against that mod input on that gain knob as well. So that's the VCA, let's get stuck into the filter's sound. I'll add a sub-octave saw wave into the mixer to go with the main saw wave just to fatten up that input. Here's the low pass mode with the inputs at a normal level and no resonance. Here's driving the mixer harder. So it gets really thick and fat. Here's a normal level and a little resonance. Here's driving the mixer again. Normal level and more resonance. More drive. The input level backed off and pretty much full resonance. And then more drive again. Let's change from the low pass and listen to the high pass mode. Here's with a little drive. Clean again and some resonance. Bit more drive and a little bit more resonance as well. So that's the sound of the filter. You can also switch between filter modes manually with a switch. And there's also a CV input which will change the modes with a high signal present at its input. So that's it for the features. We've also got a CV input and a volt per octave input as well, which we'll look at in the other parts of the video. Here I'll look at the filter as a 1 volt per octave wave shaper that will track the sequence that's running my pitch and keep the wave shape the same at any pitch. So here's just finding a sound to use. Starting a sequencer, sending pitch to my oscillator, you can hear the filter's tone is static. adding the same sequence to the Vault Pro Octave input on the filter, we can use this as a wave shaper that tracks the pitch. Turning down the resonance, we've just got a basic filter tracking, but then turning that back up, we can add specific overtones that follow that sequence. And I'm going to use the onboard VCA and add an envelope to shape the volume amplitude. Turning down the mod amount, we can use the gain as an offset and then use the mod for additional CV added to that VCA's gain offset. Looking at the filter section again, we can add some audio rate modulation to that second CV input. Again, the audio rate modulation is static, as was the tone on the filter to start with, so let's take another copy of this pitch sequence that's going to my oscillator and send that to my audio rate modulation source, which is a self-oscillating filter. So there's loads of tonal and modulation options to go at. Here's looking at the high pass filter and sequencing the filter's cutoff alongside my other sequences in a patch. I'm using the Manhattan Analog MVP manual voltage processor as a mixer to mix a rich set of waves alongside the saw wave going directly into the MA35's first input. Here's a filter sweep. And then my CV depth turned up for the cutoff sequence. And I've added a little bit of spring reverb on that output as well, just to create a touch of space. Here's using a clock divider based on the clock that's moving that sequence changes the cutoff to trigger changes between the high pass and the low pass to switch between filter modes for more variety in the sequencing. Here's looking at the low pass mode for a thick and warm bass sound, and then also taking things into a more acid-like territory. Checking the gain down on the VCA, I've got an envelope going into the mod input. You can hear that the VCA envelope is moving with each clock movement in the patch, but my filter envelopes are only moving when there's a pitch change in my sequence for added variety between the two. Here's more pronounced resonance at lower input levels. So it'll get you a great Korg MS acid style sound. It'll also do a really great thick and warm bass line that's nice and fuzzy and round with higher input mixer levels. For the last part of the video, I'll look at the filter self-oscillating. I've got a sequence playing going into my 1V per octave input, and just before the resonance really starts to oscillate, you can get these great little percussive thumps from the circuit. And if you're turning up the sound to listen to those percussive thumps, you might hear that there's some noise in the background that's authentic Korg noise from the original circuits. The noise mostly comes from a 4558 chip in the VCA, which could have been changed for something more modern with less noise, but it's an authentic circuit that sticks true to the original. Turning up the resonance, this will then start to oscillate. I've got an envelope per note as well, which will give me a nice hard thump on each one. And I've got the output multed back into itself as well, so we can turn that up on the mixer. And listening to that, you can start to see this thick and mad feedback bubbling under. So that's it for the MA35 filter and VCA module. Be sure to check out the other Manhattan Analog videos on my page and hit like and subscribe for more videos every week. And finally, check out the Patreon link in the description if you want to support my channel.